Included for 1 year. Additional lines just $30 each. Click, call, or visit a Spectrum store today.
Even the mighty might not see it coming. It's prediabetes, and it captures 1 in 3 adults. But you can escape. Take the 1-minute prediabetes risk test to know where you stand and prevent or delay type 2 diabetes. Be your own hero on smartphones everywhere at doihaveprediabetes.org.
Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
Hello, I'm Robert Guadarrama. Here is your Spectrum News in 90. The eastern half of the United States dealing with potentially dangerous severe thunderstorms with a chance of powerful tornadoes and hurricane-strength winds. It's all part of the same storm system that produced destructive storms and tornadoes in the Midwest and Great Lakes Thursday. Nearly 400,000 homes and businesses lost power.
The lights started flickering and the power cut out.
When we looked outside the window, all we saw was just green.
Cassie Ventura, the ex-girlfriend of Sean Diddy Combs, wrapped up testimony Friday after being on the stand for nearly 20 hours. In her testimony, she described the physical abuse she endured during their relationship and detailed how the entertainment mogul orchestrated what prosecutors referred to as freak-offs. On Friday, she told the jury she sought treatment for PTSD following her relationship with Combs. President Donald Trump's agenda thrown into chaos after a group of GOP hardliners blocked the big tax bill in a key committee vote Friday. Right-wing Republicans are demanding more spending cuts from Medicaid and other federal programs. Negotiations are expected to continue through the weekend.
I am a no on this bill unless serious reforms are made today, tomorrow, Sunday. Something needs to change or you're not going to get my support.
And that's a look at your Spectrum News N90.
Welcome to The Big Deal. I'm Errol Lewis, national political anchor at Spectrum News. We launched this program last year to focus on the future of our country and its people. And with a new administration in the White House and a new Congress, we are exploring the new people and policies in power that are shaping the nation. This week, the big deal was President Trump's first foreign trip of his second term. He visited the Middle East, where he made stops in Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the United Arab Emirates. Throughout the 4-day trip, the president reached an agreement to lift sanctions on Syria and locked in a multi-billion-dollar trade deal with Qatar. This all comes as ethics concerns are being raised by Congress over the president's plan to accept a luxury jet from the Qatari government to use it as Air Force One. Spectrum News reporter Angie Gonzalez has more details on the president's trip in this report.
On behalf of a lot of these people that came with me, congratulations, beautiful job. Nothing like it.
The final stop of President Donald Trump's trip was an interfaith place of worship in the United Arab Emirates. The facility, which opened in 2023, houses a mosque, a church, and synagogue. Earlier in the day, the president took part in a business roundtable, similar to those he attended during earlier stops in Saudi Arabia and Qatar.
I've been friends with these leaders, 3 leaders in particular, that we saw over the last 3-4 days, 5 days, and they're great people. They're great people, and they love our country, and we love them.
Officials from the UAE announced several new investments the country is making in U.S. companies in the future. Later, President Trump expressed his concern that the next U.S. president would take the credit.
Whoever's the next president is going to say, what a great job they did. Look, I built all these plants. I built all these factories.
The president heads back to Washington with promises of large foreign investments that President Trump claims will create U.S. jobs. While business deals grabbed much of the spotlight during his trip, he also made headway on several other issues in the Middle East. He met with Syria's new interim president and announced the U.S. would drop long-standing sanctions against the country. Bipartisan concerns over President Trump's plans to accept a luxury jet from the Qatari government also plagued the trip. The president has suggested the plane could be used as a new Air Force One. Angie Gonzalez, Spectrum News.
Joining me now with more are two top political analysts. Susan Arbetter is a political anchor for Spectrum News 1 in Albany, New York. Tim Boyum is a political anchor for Spectrum News 1 in North Carolina. And Tim, let's start by talking about that luxury jet from Qatar. The Constitution, Article 1, Section 9, explicitly says, and I'm quoting here, no person holding any office of profit or trust under them shall, without the consent of the Congress, accept any present emolument, office, or title of any kind whatever from any king, prince, or foreign state. It seems pretty definitive that Congress would have to approve the president accepting this $400 million jet, right?
Yeah, and you know what's been interesting is the critics are not just the usual crowd and Democrats. Mega loyalist Laura Loomer, Ben Shapiro, they both have opposed it. Loomer said she had to call a spade and cannot accept a $400 million gift from jihadists in suits. Shapiro said accepting the plane does not represent America first. Louisiana Republican Senator John Kennedy said, I trust Qatar like I trust a rest stop bathroom. The question is who is actually going to do anything about it if you do indeed feel that way? House Democrats, they're asking for investigations and memos from the Justice Department, essentially defending accepting it. However, as the minority parties, you know, Errol, their power is pretty limited. So it's unclear if any of this would go anywhere, assuming it is indeed constitutional. By the way, Trump is emphatic it is constitutional. It'd be stupid to not accept it. He's also taking the opportunity to complain about Boeing taking too long to deliver new Air Force Ones that he ordered back during the first term. So even for those that agree to it, Errol, I think the question is where would this go from here and who would do it?
Okay, so now, Susan, during the trip, President Trump also locked in a number of business deals for U.S. companies, including a massive order of Boeing jets from Qatar. But he also locked in some deals for the Trump family, including an 80-story Trump Tower in Dubai and a Trump Tower in Saudi Arabia, a luxury golf course in Qatar, and a $2 billion cryptocurrency investment. That one was in Abu Dhabi with World Liberty Financial, which happens to be 60% owned by the president's sons and son-in-law. Have we ever had a president try and profit so openly from their office?
No, never. We are in an entirely new universe, Errol. And members of Congress from both parties are, as Tim mentioned, they're getting antsy about it. Remember that while the president signed over management of the Trump Corporation to his sons, he still benefits financially and directly from any Trump company deals that his sons might cut. Now, just think about this. This month, the United Arab Emirates announced it was investing $2 billion in the Trump family's crypto company, World Liberty Financial. You just referenced it. A few weeks later, during this recent swing through the Emirates, Trump cut a deal with the country to sell it advanced computer chips for artificial intelligence. Now, the U.S. has never sold this kind of technology to the United Arab Emirates before because it's been very tight with China. So while there's no proof, it's sort of easy to imagine a quid pro quo deal where the UAE gets its computer chips from the U.S., the Trump family's crypto company skyrockets to the top of the leaderboard.
Oh, boy. Okay. Well, now, Tim, President Trump did do some diplomatic work. He made some headway on U.S. relations with Syria on this swing. He not only met with the country's new president, but also lifted all sanctions on Syria, which is rebuilding, of course, after years of civil war. The last meeting between the leaders of America and Syria was actually 25 years ago. So what does this major move now mean for the U.S.?
Yeah, and just think about, Errol, the juxtaposition of the Syrian leader spending his youth fighting U.S. troops in Iraq to sitting down with the President of the United States. It was jarring for many, to say the least. President Trump called him a tough guy and real leader later in Air Force One. He's talked about normalizing relations with the Syrian government, which has concerned even some more of his hardline advisors who had doubts about the transformation. It also puts into question dealing with Syria and Israel, where the Prime Minister of Israel doesn't view the new Syrian regime really any better. So the Trump administration seems to be making the point that a new healthy government there could help keep the country stable and peaceful. But even some Republicans have pushed for a slower attempt in these relations moving forward. So it's a big wait and see.
Okay, so that's what did happen. Susan, let's talk about what did not happen. Despite being in the region, President Trump actually skipped peace talks in Turkey this week between delegates from Ukraine and Russia. He sent Secretary of State Marco Rubio in his place. These are actually the first direct ceasefire talks between the two countries in 3 years. Do we know why the president did not attend, and did they make any progress toward peace in his absence?
Yeah, so 2 of the 3 heavy hitters failed to show up this week to the talks that are hosted by Turkey. Ukraine's Zelensky was there, but with lower-ranked diplomats from Russia because Putin didn't show. And U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio was there, so not much happened. And Errol, President Trump seemed to sort of anticipate that failure by saying he never expected Putin would show up if he, President Trump, wasn't there. So it could be that the president wants to maybe build up some sort of drama in the international community for future talks in which he is involved. If both Trump and Putin are sort of in the room, so to speak, breaking the diplomatic logjam between the 2 countries. It would be a coup for Trump if that happened.
Okay, thank you very much, Susan. Thank you, Tim. Great talking with you. We're going to take a short break, and when we come back, we'll talk about Asian American voters. That's a voting bloc that's been shifting more and more to the right in recent years. That's coming up next on The Big Deal.
Spectrum Noticias, we recognize that our community is vibrant and diverse.
Spectrum Noticias delivers balanced coverage of the stories that matter in our communities and across the country.
Our journalists are based in the neighborhoods we cover, ensuring you get in-depth reporting on what's happening in the places we call home.
So join us at Spectrum Noticias. We're always on, always there for you.
Now available on your TV. Check your local listings. Also available on the Spectrum News app.
Bring it to the party. Bring it to the top. Bring it to the party.
Enjoy. Unwind. Connect. With Spectrum TV On Demand. From the latest hit movies you've been waiting to watch to your favorite comfort shows and more, all available instantly for you to stream. Create the all-around entertainment experience you've always wanted with Spectrum TV On Demand. Browse over 80,000 on-demand titles today.
I'm an ex-drug dealer, and I'll be your sub today. 2 milligrams of fentanyl can be lethal. A lethal dose is in here. Who gets it, I won't know.
It's cheap, it's potent, and it's profitable. The sad reality is fentanyl is being mixed into everything now.
More kitchen now.
You're not gonna get it all right. Just make sure you nail the big stuff.
Mama!
Like making sure your kids are in the right seat for their age and size. Get it right at nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat.
Back with The Big Deal, continuing our series focused on the evolving demographics of American voters. Last week, we talked about the Latino vote. Today, we are talking about the fastest growing group of eligible voters, Asian Americans. Last year, Asian Americans shifted further towards President Trump compared to 2020 and 2016. That's despite former Vice President Kamala Harris's Asian background. We're going to explore what issues are driving that trend and what Asian American voters think of President Trump and his administration after nearly 4 months in. Spectrum News reporter Zaneria Bird starts us off with a closer look at the policy issues affecting Asian Americans in North Carolina.
If I could just have you fill out the forms, and I'll give you your... People arrived early in the morning to register for the 4th annual North Carolina Asians Americans Together Advocacy Day.
I want to have my voice heard. I want to feel like I'm a part of the community and those elected to represent me actually represent my views.
Nikhil Kulkarni is one of 70 people who walked over to the General Assembly to connect with representatives and talk about issues affecting them.
You know, just affordability, I think, is a big issue. I want to see what our leaders do doing here on the ground to help me and my family.
Nikhil says the current state of immigration is scary for his neighbors.
There are several that are on my street that are here on H-1B visas, that are in the process of applying for green card and citizenship, and they're very concerned that they're going to be picked up and thrown into a van, both legally and illegally.
The group of North Carolina Asian Americans Together says language access is one of the major issues affecting people's day-to-day.
When we're talking about accessing basic services like health care, like getting your driver's license and filling out government paperwork, including registering to vote, language access becomes a barrier for our community. And if folks are building up policies that are making it harder for folks to actually understand and be informed voters or participants in our communities, that's a big problem.
Nikhil says he hopes meeting with representatives will create a level of understanding and support for mental health, diversity, and fairness for all races and genders.
The diversity is something that we should cherish, and I don't want us to swing the pendulum in the opposite direction, where we kind of go back to ways where people don't feel welcome.
Zaneria Bird, Spectrum News 1.
Joining me now with more on the Asian American electorate is James Zarza-Diaz, a professor of history at the University of San Francisco. And Professor, the Asian American electorate is made up of many different ethnic groups. It's not a monolith. But would you say that the economy and pocketbook issues were important to all of those different subgroups in the last election?
Absolutely. Like any demographic, any voting bloc, it's those pocketbook issues. Do you have food on the table? What's the cost of groceries, gasoline prices, rent and mortgage? These are things that affect everyone, right? And I think no matter what, ethnicity of the Asian American population you are, these are things that are confronted by most consumers every day. And so that was a huge driver in how they voted in the 2024 election. And as you mentioned a moment ago, this time around, there seems to be a pretty significant swing to the right, especially in some of these battleground states that were of major concern in 2024.
And why didn't Kamala Harris's Asian identity rise to the top of the Democratic ticket? Why didn't it strike a chord with different Asian American communities, do you think?
That's a great question, and I think it's complicated. But I'll say this: with Vice President Harris, right, with her South Asian background, she did talk about it a lot, certainly, and that's a big part of her identity and her childhood experiences and so forth. But like you said a moment ago, the AAPI community is not a monolith. You have South Asians, Southeast Asians, East Asians, and even though she is technically Asian American, partly Asian American, I think ethnicity sometimes can resonate more depending on where in the Asian American category you are. And again, I think at the end of the day, it was other issues beyond identity politics that brought some people to maybe reconsider. Maybe 4 years prior they thought maybe they were a Biden voter, they were a Democratic constituency. 2024, with the way the economy was looking and shaping, at least for a lot of people, it appeared that way and felt that way. They thought maybe Trump might be a viable option this time around. And at that point, he'd already kind of obviously received a lot of had strong name ID even before the presidency the first time around, right? So it was a familiar name.
Okay, so now on this side of the election, we're finding many Asian Americans are also angry now with the administration's actions, specifically on tariffs, which has raised prices for this community when it comes to everything from groceries to toys. There are Chinatowns all around the country that are especially feeling the brunt of the tariff on China, even after the tax on imported goods was brought down from 145% to 30% over this last week. We've got a little bit of reporting on that. Take a listen to this.
The prices have already gone up. The damage is already done. No one knows how to prepare. You never know one day to the next what to expect. But clearly, cost of things are going up, and we have to do a lot more with a lot less, and that is painful.
So overall, Professor, what are you hearing from Asian Americans who voted Republican? Is Trump delivering for them, or are they starting to regret their choice?
seems to be a bit of a mixed bag, right? The tariff example is one example where if you're a small business owner, especially in places like Chinatown or anywhere across the country where you're used to inexpensive goods, right, being the norm for decades now, I think you're going to probably rate President Trump on a poorer side of the scale. Other economic issues as well. Immigration is also of concern for some folks. Maybe they're concerned. Some of the folks you just interviewed earlier in that segment talked a little about kind of fears about being deported, even if you're a legal citizen or even a U.S. born one. But then there's also some of those same voters or even Asian American independents who are either okay with things so far or quite happy about it, especially with those who were Trump voters, not just 2024, but also in 2020, 2016, like so many folks are aware, Trump can do all kinds of things and say all kinds of things, and they're going to stand by him, right? So for some Asian American voters, including immigrants, right? I think this is something that we need to be mindful of. And this is also what strategists and people who are doing that groundwork, get out the vote work, anytime there's an election to be mindful of is just because you might be an immigrant, doesn't mean that you have a very liberal approach to things like immigration policy. One of the biggest drivers for some Asian Americans to vote Republican this past election was because they see immigration as a fairness issue in their eyes. They hear about amnesties or flexibilities, if you will, with some immigration policies, and they say, well, hey, wait a minute, I waited 5-10 years to get to the United States, and they feel sullied, right, insulted by things like amnesties or things that they consider as problematic, like maybe undocumented people who are receiving benefits from the state, and so they see that as a problem, right? And so I think these are things to be mindful of for 2026 as we approach midterms for both parties, right? That there's so many layers and complexities, and just because they're of Chinese or Indian or Filipino or Vietnamese descent doesn't mean they're going to necessarily be loyal to one side or the other.
Definitely something for all of the political operators out there to keep in mind. We're going to be watching those trends as well. Thank you very much, Professor Zarza-Diaz. Great talking with you. We've got more ahead for you. Coming up next, we will take a closer look at the Federal Aviation Administration's efforts to fix our nation's outdated air traffic control system and hire more controllers. Stay with The Big Deal.
For the millions of school-aged children across the country, the state of their schools can have a lasting impact on their health and well-being.
The majority of school districts aren't doing comprehensive regular water quality testing.
As CO2 levels rise in a space, cognitive function takes a direct decline.
We visit 2 school districts working to create safe and healthy environments for their students.
Watch Exploring Your Health, Curing Our Classrooms, available on the Spectrum News app.
Look at this.
Sunshine, lollipops, and rainbows. Everything that's wonderful is what I feel when we're together.
Oh, that was funny.
It's all about connecting with seamless connectivity. And internet customers get one mobile line included for 1 year with Spectrum.
I tell my son, I love you every single day. I love you. Now, my dad has never said that to me. Not because he doesn't love me, but because culturally it wasn't comfortable for him. Now that he's a grandfather, he says, I love you to my son every time he sees him. My advice to all the fathers out there, forget the cultural restrictions. They grow up way too fast for you to waste even a single precious moment.
Food isn't just fuel to live, it's fuel to grow. My family relied on public assistance to help provide meals for us. These meals fueled my involvement in theater and the arts as a child, which fostered my love for acting. The Feeding America network of food banks helps millions of people put food on the table. When people are fed, futures are nourished. Join the movement to end hunger, and together we can open endless possibilities for people to thrive. Visit feedingamerica.org/actnow.
watching The Big Deal. We have less than 2 weeks until the Memorial Day weekend and the start of the busy travel season. Last week, Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy proposed an overhaul of the nation's outdated air traffic control system, which handles more than 45,000 flights every day. The calls for change follow chronic delays and cancellations triggered by system outages at New Jersey's largest airport over the last 2 weeks. Those issues have not only put a spotlight on the aging equipment, but also on the shortage of air traffic controllers across the country following a spate of recent aviation tragedies and collisions and close calls. Spectrum News political reporter Cassie Semien joins me now from Washington, D.C. with more on the Federal Aviation Administration's efforts. And Cassie, walk us through the Trump administration's plan to hire more air traffic controllers in particular. How long have we had this shortage?
Yeah, the National Air Traffic Controllers Association has been warning Congress since 2015 that we were at a shortage of air traffic controllers. Right now, there are about 14,000 on the job. 1,800 of them have been hired in the last year or so. And Secretary Sean Duffy said essentially that we need 3,000 more on the job, but that will take some time, likely 3 to 4 years before we are at full strength, in order to make sure that these new hires get the proper training that they need. Secretary Duffy announced earlier this month that the administration is boosting pay for air traffic controllers by 30%, and they're also offering bonuses to try and incentivize those who have been on the job and eyeing early retirement to stay a little bit longer, to give them more time to get some people up to speed and into some of these places. This is a really difficult job, Errol, and a lot of these people do retire early. He's hoping that this will incentivize them enough to stick around.
Okay, so now the Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy testified before a Senate subcommittee this week asking for more money to tackle all of these issues. Here's a little bit of what he had to say.
If you look at how the system is operating, it should be troubling for everybody, and a warning sign that time is not on our side, and it's important that we make the investments.
Okay, so when we're talking about investments, how much money are we talking about, Cassie?
Yeah, the Department of Transportation is looking for a $26.7 billion budget for next year. That money will actually be a 5% increase from last year's budget, potentially, if Congress does award him that number. And it will help to pay for some of the things I just mentioned, getting some new air traffic controllers on the job, as well as boosting that incentive money that they are able to offer to these individuals to stay on the job a little bit longer. One thing that is not necessarily in that request, Errol, I do want to note, is Secretary Duffy's announcement of overhauling the whole air traffic control system. We don't really know how much that will cost. The estimate is in the billions. We're hoping to get some more clarity on that as he has continued to be pressed on this issue of the budget for next year. Of course, it's worth noting too, Errol, the Trump administration has been talking about cutting excessive federal spending, but here at the Department of Transportation and FAA, they're actually looking to spend more money in order to try and get people to come onto the job.
Okay, just in time for the summer travel season. Thank you very much, Cassie Semien. And thank you all for joining us for this episode of The Big Deal. We'll see you next week. Stay tuned to your local station.
Friday nights, The Big Deal with Errol Lewis, where Spectrum News' local political journalists break down the most important issues shaping our nation.
Here's the deal. People need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
It's game time at the arena, and 20,000 fans are looking for a win. With an ultra-high-speed network and seamless Wi-Fi, fans can get in the door fast and share the game's best moments in real time. And with Spectrum Business committed to keeping them connected 100% of the time, they won't miss a second of the action. A secure, reliable connection from Spectrum Business means the fan experience is a guaranteed win.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
Weather can be beautiful, inconvenient, and at times powerful. And it affects everything we do. At Spectrum News Plus, our weather experts update you with the information and the context you need so you can better plan your day. And we do it every 10 minutes. We're the calm in the storm. Weather on the Ones on Spectrum News Plus, exclusively on Spectrum. And get your weather anytime on the Spectrum News app. Spectrum News Plus. Local stories, connecting communities. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.